Welcome back on the show for Kansas Sports Chatter as we bring in our next guest, and that is going to be Brett Flory. He is the head coach of the Derby High School boys basketball team. Coach, thanks for coming on. And man, playing some good ball right now for the Derby Panthers. What has stood out during this hot stretch for you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cole. Appreciate it. We started off not very good. We were 2-4 at the break. We'd played some good teams. We went up to the Husky Hoops Classic and lost a close one to Blue Valley Northwest there. Beat Shawnee Mission Northwest there, but then got beat by Staley, Missouri, who's always one of the premier teams on the Missouri side in the Kansas City area. Came back, lost a pretty close one with Mays at home, and then lost by 4 on the road at May South. So things weren't looking very good for a while, but we kind of went to war at practice over the break. Got after each other pretty well. Made a little lineup adjustment. We ended up putting a freshman in the starting lineup, which really helped clean up our rebounding and kind of allowed everybody to get into their natural positions. And so been fortunate now. We've won 12 of our last 13 since then, and we're pretty close in the one that we didn't get against Heights. And then we guess what? We got only 4 regular season games left now, so coming down the stretch.
Getting down to crunch time. When you go into a stretch like you did, like early on in the season, I mean, and like you said, like you played really good teams. Like, so for you as a coach, like how hard is it to like not to hit the panic button, but to like make big changes or realize, hey, that's just early part of the season type of jitters. I don't know. Like how do you kind of judge that as a coach?
Yeah. We're kind of used to that here, really, because oftentimes our football team advances, and some of our players we've had for less than a week by the time they're playing their first game. So that is a factor in some slow starts around here sometimes. That said, though, we took those 3 extra games that we had this year, which really, love having that opportunity. And I wanted to challenge us as much as I possibly could in the early season and to get a sense of where we're at. We had a really good team last year, it was 21-2, but we graduated, 5 senior starters from that group. And so this was a brand new team, everybody in brand new roles. And so wanted to see what we had. And Coach Heim was kind enough to invite us up to the Husky Hoops Classic. And like I said, played 3 very good teams there. And then it just so happened that we came back to play the 2, top teams in our league right after that. But I'm the type of coach I'd much rather take some lumps early and learn about yourself and figure out, okay, where are our deficiencies? Where do we need to get better? And that was definitely exposed at that time. And the streak that we're on now has been a direct result of kind of going through that process.
You mentioned the 3 extra games added to the regular season schedule. It seems like you're in favor of it, but you feel like it's in a good spot right now with the 23 games. Would you tweak it at all right now?
I'm crazy, so I would say 25 might be an optimal number. I know some people are, kind of up and down about the way it is now, but at 23, my thought is, kind of leave it up to the schools. If you want to only play 20, play 20. But if you want to and can find 25, play 25. All I know is I'm sitting here looking at, the Missouri, state champions, and they played 30 games a lot of times, maybe more. So I don't think it's unreasonable to potentially do that. But and I also understand that they're big school, small school. There's probably a difference there too. If I'm at Derby, so that's big school. Kids want to play big games and play as many games as they can, and that might not be the right scenario for a 2A school or whatever, and that's fine. But it's nice to have the option to do it, I think, if you can and you want to. And so we love it. Like I said, I was just such a first-class tournament. Blue Valley Northwest ran up there. It was unbelievable. They, paid for the out-of-town teams to stay at a hotel. They paid for all our meals. It was such a first-class deal that they ran up there. And even though we got our tails kicked a little bit, it was a great experience for our team.
For you, like the big pro of like, kind of extending it maybe and allowing extra games, is it more so to just get extra reps and get more game experience, or what's like the biggest pro for you?
I think there's different ways you could go with it. Some coaches have tried to schedule 3 wins. That's not the way that we went with it. I wanted to do it early, and I wanted to get those tests early. I wanted to go into Christmas break knowing this is what we're good at, but this is also where our deficiencies are, and we know what we need to work at to have a chance to be the team that we want to be by the time March rolls around. And so, to me, that was the big purpose, just to be able to get a few more games in early, to kind of get a read on where we're at, and then from that point on, hopefully get better and move forward.
You mentioned playing a couple of those conference teams early on in the season, and you're going to get your second chance at them. How much do you enjoy just the home and away? I guess there's some conferences that do have that, but then there's also some that, you only get to play each other maybe one time. So how much do you enjoy that home and away?
It's great. Love it. And the AVCTL has grown so much in basketball over my years now. So this year, 15 at Derby for me, and that kind of makes me the old head in the league now. Coach Grill retired at Mays, although I wouldn't be surprised to see him get back in it at some point once Alec is done playing in college. But and all of a sudden I'm looking around, and I've been around here a lot longer than everybody else has, it seems like, at least in Division One. But over those 15 years, though, when I first got here, it was football league. That's what it was good at. That's what it was known for. Basketball, it was kind of considered, an afterthought. And it has just progressively gotten better and better, not just Division One, but Division Two, on down Division Three and Four, to where now you have multiple state tournament teams every year in every division, and teams that are competing and winning state championships. And we haven't been able to get all the way to get that last championship win yet. That's what we're striving for, but we've been in the conversation along with several other teams in our league that have consistently been in that conversation and even have won. So, but back to the home and home, I think that's what when you can do a round robin home and home, that gives you a true champion of your league each year, and that's always a fun thing to chase. And when you get into February, it's been a long season. You want to have a carrot for kids to put in front of them. And, if you have a chance to pursue a league championship, doesn't mean a lot necessarily in terms of where you're trying to go in March, but it's meaningful in February for motivation for sure.
Talking with Brett Flory, head coach of the Derby High School boys basketball team. You say old head. I think that's just experience. I think the name is like veteran coach.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's 47 now, so I know I'm not one of the young guys anymore. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago that I was, but yeah, it's myself, Coach Blue at Eisenhower. We're in Division One and Two. I think the both of us. We were just talking the other night that, gosh, like we're the old guys now, and we're coaching against Zach at Mays now, who Coach Blue coached him, of course, in high school, and I coached against him his senior year at Eisenhower, and Trey O'Neill at Andover, who I coached against. And I remember he was a sophomore at Scott City. We played them in the Dodge City tournament. So it's great seeing these young guys come along, but it does start to make me feel my ears a little bit.
We'll go back to 2011 when you first took over the Derby program as head coach. What was that? Just getting the reins of the offense, if you will.
Yeah, that it was a neat thing because I've been the coach at Valley Center for 6 years, and we didn't have a lot of success really in terms of wins and losses, and things hadn't gone the way that I hoped there, but we had worked as hard as we possibly could. The kids that we had there, they did everything they possibly could to win, and worked very hard for me, and love those guys to death to this day that played for me at VC. But at the end of the day, we weren't winning games, and the Derby job comes open, and I'm not really thinking that there'd be any realistic chance of me possibly getting that job at that point. But a few people said, "Hey, why not? You don't know if you don't try." And the cool thing about it, I think I learned a lesson then. If you try and do right by kids and treat people right, that can come back and be reciprocated. Russell Baldwin, who was AD who hired me and still our AD now, he told me after the fact. He said one of the big motivating factors in that hire wasn't my record, obviously, but it was the fact that a lot of Valley Center parents had taken the time to email him and
Wow.
kind of say that I might be with in that situation at Derby, that they thought I would be very successful and that I'd done right by their kids and stuff like that. So that meant so much. And Tim Hamlin, Russell Baldwin, they took a gamble, and I know a lot of people back then at that time remember some of the talk radio shows in Wichita at the time. There's a lot of head scratching when that hire was made, which is understandable, frankly, based on my record. But at that time, we sometimes you just get the right fit,
Yeah.
the right person, the right place, the right time, and Derby's been perfect for me and my situation, and hopefully we've been pretty good for Derby too.
Yeah, it's worked out really well. You talk about, now, like you said, 15 years as head coach. And I always think about like building a system and putting it in place. And sometimes it's going to change based on your personnel. But how nice is it now with that experience and just the years that you've been there that, like kids that are growing up through the Derby system, if you will, like they know what to expect when they get to the high school?
Yeah, that's a huge piece that we try to accomplish. We do have a certain style of play that we believe in, and we have our Panther Basketball Academy that we start with our third graders. I work with our third through fifth graders for a time period in the spring, then again in the summer, then again in the fall. Then we take our sixth, seventh, eighth graders right after them. Same thing, spring, summer, fall. We work with our middle school coaches, trying to be on the same page with our seventh and eighth grade teams, of course. And that's one thing that's unique about Derby. That is a large school, but it's still one community.
Yeah.
It's if you're a directional school, it's a little bit more difficult to accomplish that because you might not know exactly which kids are coming your way. Whereas in Derby, you have Derby North, Derby Middle, and they're both coming to you. And so
Right.
that's I think a big advantage. Coach Clark on the football side has taken advantage of that for years with there's not a bigger junior football program ever, probably, than Derby junior football is. The wrestling program has had a junior wrestling program forever, which has led to a lot of success for them. It's a little bit more difficult on the basketball side because you have, AAU teams and your best players are going to want to play on traveling teams and stuff like that. So we don't necessarily have, okay, this is our third grade team or our fourth grade team or whatever. But at the academy, I do at least get those kids in. We learn the system. They learn me. I learn them. And that really helps.
All right. So you mentioned, you have some time with those third through fifth graders. Like, are you scouting those kids out at that point, realizing, hey, this kid's going to be pretty good at about five?
I mean, yeah, that's the goal. You want to kind of, see as much as possible who your studs are going to be and start that development as early as you can. And if they can come in ninth grade, knowing the system, knowing your terminology, knowing the way that you coach and kind of the culture of your program, that really helps. It doesn't always work that way. You don't get every single kid. There's still freshmen that make our freshman team that I've never worked with before, and that's fine too. But we'll go back to last year's team. Jack Olwelling was player of the year in our league, and I could show you pictures of this little guy in third grade with his Steph Curry jersey on at our stuff, and so he came to high school really knowing what he was doing, and the more kids that you can have doing that, the better.
A lot of studs come through those doors at Derby High School. Hey, Coach, appreciate the time, and best of luck the rest of the season.
You bet. Thank you, Cole.
That is Brett Flory, the head coach of the Derby High School boys basketball team. We'll have more of the show after the break.